there's a book downstairs Sung Santini put together in the 1960s of most of the stories we know. There's 100 traditional stories. And actually what I found interesting is sometimes he'd have a little comment in the beginning or in the end. And it was interesting the way he might comment about a story. It's called I think it's called The Road to Enlightenment or The Way of Enlightenment. And one of my favorite stories is about the third patriarch, who's called the third patriarch, third ancestor, Sanakavasa. And the story briefly is that he was a merchant and was a student of Buddha. And one time after a long trip with a caravan or something, he comes back and Buddha's dead and Mahakasha has also died. And that kind of hits his mind. And when he was away, Buddha had already died, Mahakashyapa talked to Ananda and said, pay attention to this man in the future. He can be a good carrier of the Dharma. So when he came back and he heard Buddha and Mahakashyapa died, he went to see Ananda, and he felt so bad that he, had continued to do business when he could have been practicing more full-time with Buddha or with Mahakashyapa, that he decides to give all his wealth to the Sangha. And he and his wife come and they live as lay people with the monks and nuns and start practicing every day with them. I don't know what they do about food. I doubt they go begging. But anyway, after some time, Ananda says to him, Sanakavasa, you've given everything away to the Sangha and now you just practice. Why don't you give one more thing away and attain Dharma, and then you really can help people. So Sanakavasa cuts his hair and becomes a monk. And then they're practicing together, practicing. And at one point, all of Sanakavasa's doubts had kind of coalesced, sort of gathered together into one kind of mass. And he goes to Ananda and he says, Buddha talked about origination and I think dispersion or something, appearing and disappearing. And so he says to Ananda, where is what is the moment, what is it that is not appearing and disappearing? And Ananda just points to the edge of Sanakavasa's robe. And Sanakavasa doesn't understand that. And so he says to Ananda, where is it that all Buddhas, from where do all Buddhas appear? And Ananda pulls on his robe and he gets enlightened. I really like that, So not from speech, something, Yes? I hit you 30 times. So, something. And it's from having just a big question in our mind. And I think a real big question doesn't even need words. Maybe it began as words, but, look at dogs. Cats a little bit. But how a dog once in a while, they'll they have a big question, but there's not words in their mind. They don't have what's he want me to do? But they have a question without words. And little kids too. Little kids can be freaky. My experience, when you see some little kid, even down at a coffee shop or something, he's not used to a white face and they just look at you. And there's no reaction, but they're taking something in, They're just taking something in. And there aren't words in there. It's just kind of that's really cool. And people must have been like that a lot. I remember seeing, when I was 17, a anthropological documentary of the Bushmen of the Kalahari. They live in the deserts in South Africa, and they live the traditional hunter-gatherer life. And somebody went in there and was studying them and went on hunts with them and stuff. And I remember this scene where what would often happen at night is they'd make a fire after they ate, and they'd sit around the fire, and the kids might be falling asleep or playing quietly, and some of the people might be, fixing a spear or, kind of sewing something, making something, but many of them just sat there. It's so interesting. We don't do that, We might sit there in front of a television, but lots of thinking things happening because we're looking at thinking things. So I hope we can get that sort of question mind that's not dependent on words at all. And then something will really touch us. Something that, in my experience, that happens. He pulled down here, not over here. That's why it didn't work. That's why it didn't work. Okay. Next time, maybe, or over here. That's okay. What happens if you pull your own? If I pull my own, did you get enlightenment? I guess that doesn't work that way. Okay. Only don't know.